My math senses has been tingling since the recent rework of the Prime cards. The Warlord gives us attack speed, and the Archmagus gives us power. What is the best one to go for? Are you a caster? That's the Archmagus. But as a carry or as a fighter, what is the option to go with? Since you get that 20% damage increase that kind of acts like power, at least what I'm thinking here, what gives you the most DPS? The power or the attack speed? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Paragon Guide. I am Sylphin. So you were coming along with me on the ride to try to figure this out. So honestly, guys, we're going to have to do it with a few heroes. I'm going to do it with with a very meta carry right now, and that is Yin. She will represent the carries, simply because Twin Blast. Yes, you can go burst with him. That is very viable. You see that all the time in the high elos. But Yin is going to represent the carries. Now, we're going to go and choose somebody else to be the fighter, maybe a Greystone or a Grux or a Kwang, and kind of go with them. Probably not crit, to be honest with you, because that's not what I'm seeing at the high elos. Just kind of a power and attack speed with all of that other kind of stuff. So we're going to do a Yin carry, and probably, you know, guys, a Grux or a Kwang, with just power and attack speed at about 30 or 35 CP put into those stats. So those are the two situations we're going to cover. Which one gives us the highest DPS? Now, the first step is to figure out how much damage is that 20% increase going to give us. I need to consider that first, because that has to go into the equation as power. That's going to be how much she is hitting for, including that 20% bonus. So what we're going to do is we're going to take here the mathematically correct highest DPS distribution of power, attack speed, and crit for 50 total CP put into power, attack speed, and crit. 55 if you include that crit bonus. That is very fair. That's very fair. That gives you 10 CP into lifesteal, which is that's wonderful. That's a very, very good build for Yin. So we're going to use that. We have to figure out how hard does she hit, including that 20% increase to all damage dealt. So we can see here, guys, that when you do the math, she is going to be hitting for 195 damage each. That's going to be how hard she hits before crit. That's what she's going to be hitting for before crit. Now we're going to have to go in here and add that 20% bonus that the Prime card gives you. So it's going to give you 20% more damage. It's freaking awesome. So 234. Now we're going to have to see the difference here between 134 and 195 and see how much power equivalent that is. So that is 39 damage, which, with including her damage scaling, how much power is that? Basically, what is the value of power of that 20% increase of damage? And we can see that it is 7 CP's worth of power with this build. Now remember that 20% is relative. It's a percentage. If you're having less damage, then that 20% will be a smaller number. It'll end up as a smaller number. So basically, the more power that you put on your hero, the 20% that Prime does affect, it'll be larger. It'll have a larger relative effect. So for us here, Yin with this build gets 7 CP's worth of power through that 20%. So if we need to include that into our build and then choose whether the 30 power on the Archmagus or the 25.5, it's 5 CP's worth of power or attack speed, which one is better after that? So we're going to have to include that 7 into this, giving us 28 power, 10 attack speed, and 19 crit. Now comes the fun part. In this thing that I haven't released to you guys just because I just use it to showcase things. There's no value in you guys fiddling around with it yourselves, we're going to put 28, 10, and 19 into the little calculator thingy. Now, this one you guys haven't really seen before. It's been quite a while. And now I'm going to have to kind of switch this around to see what is 28 power, 10 attack speed, and 17 crit chance. And guys, here is the moment of truth. So with this cool thing here, I have 28 damage, or power, as it's now called. 28, I just haven't changed it because power is damage. It basically is damage. We have 28 power being calculated into here, and then after that 28 power is taken into account on the basic attack, then attack speed and crit is applied onto that to create all of these numbers. So 28, 10, and 19 here. What is that? How much DPS is 10 attack speed, 10 attack speed, 10 attack speed, and a 19 crit? 803 DPS. 803 DPS. So that is where we are sitting. We are sitting at 803 DPS, including Prime. So including that 20% damage increase, we're sitting at 803 DPS. Now, let's say we have the Warlord on. So now we're going to go up to, it's 5 CP's worth of attack speed. So we're at 15. So attack speed, now we're going to go down to 15 and go all the way over to 917. That is what we are at now. So this is with the Warlord active. We are yin with our build, plus that 20% damage increase, plus that 5 CP of attack speed, 917. Now we have to increase. Now we have to go with the Archmagus. That gives us 5 CP's worth of power. So we're just going to go into here and add that on top of that 20% bonus that the Prime cards give us. So plus that 5 here is 33 power. And now all we have to do is look at 10 attack speed and 19 crit. 899. There you guys go. 899 is the Archmagus, and a 917 is the Warlord. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the Warlord gives you 18 more damage. So that's barely, what is that? That's a very, very small, but it is there. The Archmagus is a DPS decrease over the Warlord. So you can see, guys, that the Warlord for a carry is better in terms of increasing your DPS. Now, there are some considerations there, obviously. If you want to be bursty, I just did a high elo gamecast where the twin blast that was going pretty much all power and crit had a Richter, a Kwong, and somebody else with great CC. So like he was able to put all 3 of his rapid fire shots straight into somebody, absolutely deleting people. That works. It is a viable strategy, even though it's not as much DPS. So there is that consideration. I am in the works of trying to see, you know, in most scenarios, how much time do you have to deal damage? I don't care, you know, I don't care what my build says. Is if I have enough time, for a DPS to pay off, the majority of the time, I'm gonna go for that because I have the time. Why wouldn't I do something like that, right? So anyways, that is in the works. So now, guys, we're gonna have to see if a Kwong or a Grux, probably a Kwong, he is very, very meta right now. If a Kwong going for, you know, 30, 35 CP into power and attack speed, you know, a little bit of attack speed, but going into all of the other wonderful cards, blood-soaked armor, other things, how about them? How does that affect them? One small consideration as well that I just thought of before we move on is that, you know, some of you might be thinking, well, you don't actually get Orb Prime when you're 60 CP now anyways. You get Orb Prime usually when you're like 30 or 40 CP. around that point, you don't have all the crit that you want in your final build to give that value to power. Remember that the value of power is incredibly amplified by crit. So if you don't have that crit yet, when you're getting or prime or in the 30-40 CP mark, attack speed actually has more value. So even if you're thinking like, well, I still don't have my final build, don't have all that crit stuff, that only makes the Warlord more viable. That only makes it more viable. The less crit you have, the better that attack speed works in terms of giving you more value, if that makes sense. So if you're thinking about that, that only makes the Warlord more viable. Now, this situation is a bit harder to kind of take into account. So we have a Kwang here that has 30 CP into power, 6 into attack speed, leaving you anywhere from 30 to probably anywhere from 25, 26 to 30 CP's worth of value to go into other cards. Again, a Tempered Plate, a Tuned Barrier, an Amulet of Veteran, Blink Charm, a Blink Shot, Honor the Pure, Quenching Scales, Blood-Soaked Armor, very popular to help with Raptors and Prime, stuff like that. And that is very valuable. That is what I am seeing at the high ELOs. So that is okay. That's okay. This, I think, is a fair representation of this. So the basic attack damage here for Kwang is, this is including the Orb Prime, so, or that 20% bonus. So normally he's going to be hitting for 181. Ouch. That's a good amount here. 181, but that 20% increase pushes it all the way up to 217. It's a difference of 36 with his damage scaling. That is 10 CP worth of power. As you can see here, that's a lot of value. That 20% increase in damage has a different relative value with these heroes because of their scaling. You know, if you wanted to get 36 of more damage out of your basic attack, Kwang would need to put more power than somebody like a Gin or a Sparrow just because of their damage scaling. So that's 10 CP's worth of power, which is significant. So we have 30 and 6. We actually have 40 and 6. So this one's a little bit easier. We're not taking into account crit, so we just go down to our damage, or power and attack speed one here and see how this works out. So we have damage and attack speed. We are at 40 and 10. So we're at 294 DPS right now with just normal Orb Prime with that 20% bonus. So we're at 40 and 10, 294. Now, which is better? Adding 5 CP of power or 5 CP of attack speed? This one's really simple. We just go up the the damage scale to 45 and 10, which is right here at 319, or adding 5 attack speed, which is right here. 319 versus 344. So as you can see, the Warlord is indeed better in increasing your DPS here by almost 10%. Actually, almost 10%. So as you can see, for a fighter here like Kwang, not going into crit, the Warlord over the Archmagus gives you a significant more value than it did on Yin. There was barely 2-3% difference between the Archmagus and the Warlord for Yin. So for Kwang, it's almost 10%. So it is a fairly significant difference between 319 and 344. But again, Kwang has a different purpose, and it can be treated differently. If you want to go for a huge burst, you know, sword into your alt, into your light, completely delete somebody, yeah, Archmagus definitely going to help. But if you know, I've seen Jay Leo go into more of a basic attack. Very famous a jungler, probably one of the best junglers in the game. I see him going for more of a basic attack focus, so Whirling Wand or 2, some basic pen, stuff like that. So I would think just from that, just the way that he builds his Kwang, he would go for the Warlord. As you can see, it gives you more DPS, and you know what? As a Kwang, with that utility, with that health that you're adding on, with the other 30 CP that you have to play with, I think that the Warlord would synergize better with the build. So, as you can see, basically, guys, there are various considerations that you need to take into account when you are choosing these. So you can see this is the Archmagus and this is the Warlord. Fairly significant difference, almost 10%, about 7% or so between these two. So as you can see for Kwang here, to summarize, Kwang, the Warlord, is a DPS increase over the Archmagus, almost 10% here, with Yin here being the Warlord, again, a bit of a smaller of an increase, barely what, 3-4%, not even 2 to 3% increase over the Warlord and the Archmages. But with Yin, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. She doesn't have very much burst potential, so I would just say strict up the Warlord. Absolutely 100%, especially for Sparrow. She has literally no burst whatsoever. Somebody like Grim, absolutely the Warlord as well. Twin Blast, you can get away with the Archmages, absolutely, but again, it is just all up to you. So there you guys go. There is there's the summary. The Warlord is better for these base for fighters, for carries in the DPS department. I'm gonna say that very clearly. In the DPS department, the Warlord is better. Obviously, for casters, the Archmagus, 110%. Absolutely no way do you want the Warlord. But for our fighters and for our carries, Warlord, 100% to increase the DPS over the Archmagus. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let me know down in the comments below, what do you think? How did you like this journey to figure out if the Warlord or the Archmagus is better in increasing our DPS on a fighter not building crit, and on a carry building crit? If you're a fighter building crit because of your power scaling, the Warlord is still that only helps. That only helps the Warlord, because you're not going to get that much more value out of that 30 power that you're getting on the Archmagus on your fighter with crit. Warlord, 110%. If it works on a carry, it's going to absolutely work on a fighter building crit. So keep that in mind, especially on Assassin. Especially on an Assassin. Holy smokes, like a basic attack focused Kallari with crit. Absolutely 110% the Warlord. So guys, let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Is this a surprise to you? Is this that? Remember, I completely understand that it's all up to you. If you want to go Archmagus into the power to increase your burst, to just be a complete nuke of a Kwang, I completely understand. Or a complete nuke of a Chimera, I understand. I just wanted to, in this scenario, increasing your DPS, basic attack DPS, the Warlord is better. Please like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, guys, and of course, subscribe. If you guys like this content, found it useful, and especially if you want more math. I've been a little bit stingy on the math lately. If you want more of it, please let me know down in the comments, because it just takes a while sometimes for me to do it, especially some of these later projects that have just been, it's been a long time coming. Let me know down in the comments. Till next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.